What is going on, guys? Joey here with young Coach Cam. What's going on, Cam?
What up? What up?
And over the next couple posts, you're gonna see me just jumping on here with some of the Flex coaches, just doing some Q&A action. Instead of being, I feel like this one's gonna probably be not like quick answer next question, but maybe we just talk a little bit uh more about each question. Um, I had Cam make a post in his story asking for questions from you guys, and he picked the ones that he liked the most or interested him the most. Remember, if you guys enjoy these videos, you can let me know by liking the video, which could help potentially get more people to also be possibly helped by these videos. I greatly appreciate the feedback on the last video. Um, and yeah, so if you guys enjoy it, we'll keep going. So that being said, Cam, what do you got for me? And we'll these questions will go towards both of us, of course.
So the first one is just what is the trajectory of the sport?
I feel like okay, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of backstory. So I've been doing this like 10 years, right? A little bit, almost getting over 10 years now. And in the beginning, powerlifting, there were no, at least to my knowledge, from what I was exposed to, there wasn't really I don't think anybody was really talking about the Olympics. It's possible that on the IPF side that was like the vision even back then. But I mean, USPA was like very prominent back then, and there wasn't. I didn't even know there was like untested lifting or tested lifting. Um, and we were all just kind of lumped together, and it was literally just a thing that we did for fun, and like the landscape was completely different. This was my experience, um, back in like 2013, 2012. As time went on, with social media becoming more and more prominent, then I really truly believe that like we had people that covered the sport, right? We had Johnny Candido, we had Brett Gibbs who was great. There was a guy named Josh Hancock who was also good. Um, when Matt Ogus got into it, that really helped. In 2016, CrossFit kind of blew up, and that really also helped powerlifting. I don't know if people tried CrossFit and then realized I don't want to do this, I want to do powerlifting or what, but it just helped tremendously. Um, and then when John, again, this is my experience. When John went against Gibbs, I think that live stream was the biggest powerlifting live stream of like that modern time that we had seen. It was like you had these two big names, one from the US, one outside the US. Gibbs had a following. He had social media. He had YouTube. Hack had YouTube, but he was just posting like just lifting, like just him lifting, with like Pete Rubish and stuff like that. And then they both, you follow their journeys, so both fan bases meet, and you have this clash. And it was something that the sport had not seen in a long time. And that, like, I noticed a uptick in just like everything after that moment. It was very life changing for me. And then when Russ came into the picture, I think that just kind of a lot of things that he did and that Flex did, frankly, kind of inspired others and told others like, hey, it's okay to like do these things. And then once TikTok came out many years later, the sport was growing, and then TikTok came out, and that just like sent the viewership to another dimension. I had started getting a bunch of influencers, and I'm gonna answer the question, but I want to like give some backstory to it. It's gonna be like a mini podcast, basically. When that happened, we had like influencers that were previously bodybuilders, like trying out powerlifting, and then the sport was just getting a lot of traction, and the way that content was consumed changed. And I really think that powerlifting can go two different directions. And I know that they have to kind of decide, do they want to? I know the IPF, it really seems like their goal is to reach the most amount of people through pursuing the Olympic route. The way that they change their weight classes, the way they do drug testing, everything that they're doing is leading us like to that path, and that's, something that excites me. I feel like the USAPL might be going more of the professional route in terms of, when I say professional, I mean like almost like almost like a business route, maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but I think both sides. I mean, and to be honest with you guys, like at Worlds, we were on TV. That was the first Worlds I'd ever been at where we were on TV, and it was very different. Like you gotta like commercials happen at a certain amount of time. Your lifting has to be like certain amount of speed, right? Um, the flight can't be super ridiculously long or whatever. And it was a very much enjoyed it, and I hope that it continues to be that way. Um, and I think that's the direction we're going. I think we're going towards creating a product that displays some of the strongest people in the squat, bench, and deadlift at the world level. And I believe that the more noise that we make, the more eyes that we get on the sport, that can give them the best chance to get into something like the Olympics, which would take our viewership, which would take the sport and put it on a level that we had never seen before. Um, there are so many like random like weightlifters that you could just go down the rabbit hole that you don't even know about. 100,000 followers, 60,000 followers, 200,000 followers, a million followers. Like you don't even know them, right? But there's that sport has just had so many legs, and people really need to understand. Um, like soccer, for example, soccer players, like prominent soccer players, they are global. They are far bigger than, like, I was actually shocked, and this Cam will probably get this, right? I was shocked when I saw that soccer player, like I thought LeBron James had a lot of followers, but when I saw
Nah,
that soccer
it's
players,
messy.
when soccer players had a lot of followers, I was like, what the heck? Like, how is this even possible? Like, is there, and it really showed me like there's a whole planet Earth out there, not just the USA, that exists outside of where we are. Granted, soccer is a very cultural thing. You just need a ball on the ground. You know what I mean? Anybody can play it, and any little Johnny can have a dream of growing up and becoming whatever. Same thing with basketball. When I was 16, I thought I could play in the NBA. I was like, I'm gonna be the next Shaq, whatever. Da da da. And I think powerlifting is becoming more accessible. I think a lot of young kids are on TikTok, and the more that you can get a barbell in their hands, or just kind of like, and here's the thing too, social media, you're going to see all different kinds of people. You're going to find somebody that looks like you can relate to, maybe is has a similar upbringing to you, and you can see that person and be like, wow, look at this person, they're like me, they're doing this cool thing, I want to try that. You know what I mean? And before, back in 2013, 2012, we didn't really have that. I actually thought it was stupid to post your list back then, right? And then I eventually saw the power of the iPhone, and it was like, what the heck is this thing? And then I realized, this is a really, really powerful tool. So that was my long-winded answer. That is kind of where I think the sport is going. I had always been motivated by being in the moments of powerlifting. Like I always wanted to be involved in the most impactful moments in powerlifting, and I think I've done a really good job of that over the last 10 years. Really, like since 2016, I would say. Um, and those are the things that like fire me up. That's what inspires me moving forward, make pushing things higher. Let me tell you guys, like when I saw Sheffield, I was there. I was literally sitting in the front row, VIP. I looked next to me. I got all these guys in like suits and like nice shirts. You got like the overlords there. You got like investors, all whoever. I don't even know who these people are, right? I'm just like, yo, these guys look fancy and official. I know some of them. That some of them are very important people, right? And I was thinking, I was looking back and I see like 2,200 people in the crowd, 2,100 people in the crowd, and I'm feeling the energy, and I'm just like, this is it. This is what we've been pushing for. This is this is where we're going. You know what I'm saying? Um, and that was the first thing of its kind, and I can't believe that I got to experience that. Let alone like Jesus winning it, Jesus and Keiko getting second. Shout out to Delaney as well, and Mikey, right, and Amanda. Like it was so insane, and that is the I am very pleased with that direction. I am thankful that there are people in the sport behind the scenes that have that similar vision and the tools to push it in that direction. Um, yeah, that's my answer. What do you think, Cam?
Yeah, no, I mean, totally agree. Like, it's just obviously, I think and like we've said this before, but like the split definitely kind of messed up on the tested side, kind of threw it back. But I think Sheffield kind of fast forward and propelled it a little bit more. So I think as far as like the viewership goes, I think it's only going to get better. Like, I think it's just now starting to reach like the next 5 to 10 years. I think could be like the peak essentially. Of course, who knows what happens in 20 years, but
Yeah.
I think what we have now is just the base of what's to come. And then you mentioned the like the social media, how like I follow some random weightlifters. They'll have like 200K followers.
We don't
Not
even
very.
know them. We don't even know who
Yeah,
they
and
are.
all
Yeah.
they do is they just lift weights. They don't do any content, right? A lot of the powerlifters with the bigger followings, they do content. So like when powerlifting gets to the point, like if you're a good bodybuilder, if you're a good CrossFit athlete, regardless of content, you got 400,000, 500,000 followers. When powerlifting can get to that point, that's when, and I think it can because like in a way, everyone squat, benches, and deadlifts. Everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
Who works out, obviously. But when the really good lifters can like literally just lift and then their following's 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, that's where I think it can be. And obviously like Sheffield and all the eyes that brings can definitely help get there. And I think it's possible. So that's where I think it is headed.
Yeah, I really like those points that you touched on, and I do think the split was terrible. I was actually telling Chris this the other day. For the first time ever, the federation that we had put so much into like all these years, they're now almost
They're in trouble.
adversarial. They're almost
They're in
adversarial
trouble.
because the goal, okay, back in 2015, 2016, when little Johnny would email me, right? They would say, "I have a dream one day of being an IPF world champion, and I know you can get me there, right? Or help me get there, whatever." That like faded a little bit when the split happened. It was like when COVID happened, all these eyes came into lifting, but they didn't know anything about like where they could go, right? It was weird. I think it's because yeah, so they didn't know, where they could go. They didn't know that there was something called worlds. They didn't know anything about being a world champion, whatever. But somewhere along the way, we cannot discount the US does have influence and people are going to follow the federation. And there were people that were trying to spin a narrative and act like the world level didn't exist, right? Probably because they need to try to survive, and that's a giant threat to them. But I don't think that's a way like I think it was a terrible thing for the USAPL when they split off because now you're gonna have these people like the influence of the world is going to sort of like surround that, right? And unless they can create an unbelievably compelling product, which right now I don't see how they're gonna compete with something like a Sheffield, especially when all the big names, the guys with influence, there are guys, let's use Ashton for example. He doesn't make content, he just lifts. He has a decent following. He's going, these guys supposedly are going to come over. Obviously, Russ is going over. That's the biggest powerlifter of the world, right? The most popular powerlifter on planet Earth, right? Um, and Jesus is already there. Keiko, I've seen Keiko's following grow so much from just being a lifter over there. He's a lifter, he shakes hands, he's presentable, he's a good role model, and he's Delaney as well. Like, oh my God, Carl, all of these lifters just lifting at that level, that platform, kind of like the UFC. You become a UFC champion, you become prominent in the UFC. You can really build a following through doing well in the platform. That exists there, right? Now, don't get me wrong. What Austin did help his following tremendously, but like everybody assumes he's moving over, and what he did is has implications for the world level. So it all revolves around, and also I just want to say Taylor Taylor's legacy is what makes Austin's performance so significant because he spent all these years sort of being this untouchable, unbeatable thing, building up that weight class. And when you do that and then somebody beats you, they get a lot of that energy, they get a lot of that um, you know, I don't know, all the eyes that you spent the time to build up, and they didn't even go head up yet. They didn't even go head up, so that's like the crazy thing. But anyway, all I'm saying is the split sucked. I hate it. I actually had a guy who I coached for a long time, and you know, took us 5 years, but he finally became national champion. And then he said, and I don't know if people just associate me with like I only work with world champions. I work with all different kinds of people, right? But that's kind of like where I put a lot of my energy. And he basically said, I don't want to be a world champion. I just want to like, so like our goals no longer like aligned in terms of like he had ran his course, he had competed at the national level, he had achieved the goal that we set out to do. And then after that, there's something about, I know that his circle is very like not IPF and they're probably influencing him and he's choosing to go a different path and I get that, but at the same time, I think over the like 2024 is going to be such a big year because it's like we're going to look back at this time and we're going to look back at everything that happened in 2024 and we're going to say like now people see what we see and the passion and the excitement that I have about lifting. If you're in that building, if you're at Sheffield and you experience that, it's gonna change you and you're gonna be like, all right, that's it. This is it. I gotta be here. I gotta do what I gotta do to get there. So anyway, next question. You riling me up now.
All right. That was a deep one. But
That was a deep one. Yeah,
we'll
these are gonna
go.
be deep ones. These are gonna be deep ones.
Yeah. Let's see. What is mental key that lifters struggle with,
Mental key that lifters. Okay, so like a
or like
mental.
or like some kind, not even like a mental key, just something mentally that lifters struggle with.
I would say definitely like when they have bad days. So,
Yeah.
and this usually comes from like having an expectation. So you come into the gym and you think that you're gonna do one thing, or um, you are focused on a number or something like that, and all lifters have some level of ego, and they go in the gym and then they are unable to hit that number. I think that can, especially with my younger lifters, um, they they're anxious and they want to prove themselves to the world and they're strong. They're very strong. Don't get me wrong. Like 19, 20 years old, hitting great numbers. Um, and they have to be honest with themselves and kind of accept that today I don't have what I wanted, and that's where the problem lies. You wanted it. You didn't just like say, okay, I'm going to take what I have, right? And because of that, you put yourself in this position where, you know, you're disappointed when you don't meet that expectation. What do they say? Expectations are the like gateway to disappointment or something like that. Is that or comparison? You're comparing yourself to the strongest version of yourself on a day when you're probably dealing with fatigue. You're probably not in a position to beat what you did 3 weeks ago, whatever. But we
Yeah.
don't. But they just have a hard time understanding that there's fluctuations, right? And your value is not determined by how you are in any one given day. But they get really upset with themselves, and it's okay to like be upset, but your actions after that, they cannot influence and stop you from staying on track. If you want to be emotional, be fucking emotional, but train, just do the right things, right? That's fine. You could be emotional, get sad, whatever, be fucking mad, but you should still execute and do what you need to do to move forward. Now, if you let your emotions knock you off your path, now it's just all bad, right? And that is something that, just that it's humbling, right? If you fail a squat, you feel like you got beat up. You feel like you got slapped or something. You know what I mean? It's not a good feeling. So that's definitely something that I've seen lifters sort of struggle with.
Yeah, I was literally gonna say roughly the exact same thing. One thing I think people need to stop doing is stop letting one bad rep or one bad set like ruin a whole session. Like that is like there's no point because like if you think about it, let's say you have a top set, top single, like whatever it is, and you overshoot. then you can do one or two things from there. One, you can be really upset about it and you can let your ego get the best of you, and then you can try to push too hard on back downs. Then you're going to overshoot again. So then you finally accept it, but then you're already drained because you've already overshot the whole time. So then whole session is basically shot at that point. You're all depressed. You're upset about it. When in reality, you overshoot your top set. Okay, take a second because you have time to rest, regroup, figure out what you did wrong, but move on because you can't change the fact that you overshot. You just got to learn from it, right? But then if you go in, reset your mindset, approach back downs with like the mindset of like, hey, today's not my best day. I overshot the single. It is what it is. But I'm just gonna go in. I'm gonna make these back downs as quality as possible, as crisp as possible. I'm gonna try to move the bar as well as I can. And then if you just go and do that, you go 3 or 4 really great sets, regardless of what is on the bar. You make it move well. You feel good about it. You're leaving the gym feeling good about the movement, and then you're gonna carry that over into your next session instead of just being upset all day about it and then you're just gonna let it ruin everything. So like you just have to learn that like it's going to happen, but you shouldn't let it control you because at the end of the day you're just like lifting weights. And so just learn from it, figure out what you did wrong, but don't let it ruin a session because there's no reason it should ruin a session because you can still make the most out of every day regardless of how you feel.
You shouldn't be allowing that those negative feelings, or they're not necessarily negative if you know how to control them, into like, especially like if you leave the gym, you're still mad now, like
Yeah,
what
that's yeah,
what are
like
you
yeah,
doing,
like
man?
like think about it. If Patrick Mahomes goes to practice and the first drill they do, let's say he does bad, do you think he's going to let that affect his whole practice and like mope and be sad about it and be upset about it, or do you think he learns from it, moves on, and refocuses and has a great practice?
I'm really happy that you brought up the example of football because their coach would always tell me like have it you gotta have it you just gotta forget it, short term memory. Fuck it, next play. Damn, you whiffed the shit out of that tackle. You fucking suck. All right, next play.
Yeah,
Get it right
yeah,
on the
and
next
that's
one.
the
Know your assignment. Yeah.
yeah, and like that's the thing that I think powerlifting compared to like football, basketball, soccer, like if you make a mistake in any one of those sports, even if it's in practice, generally you got like 30 seconds and you got to get over it. If it's basketball or soccer, you can't really even think about the mistake. You just got to move on. Whereas in powerlifting, you sit there, they think about it, and I think that's where like the negativity can come in. Which think about it, but then like get over it, figure out what you did wrong, but you just gotta learn to kind of think about it in a more positive light and not necessarily a negative light. And then definitely don't carry that home with you. There's literally no point because it's like you're going to the gym for fun. It's supposed to be a hobby. Like why are you getting upset at a hobby that you chose to do?
That's actually a
Um,
very interesting point about basketball. That was actually my first sport besides martial arts. That I did for like 8 years when I was little. Basketball, you fucking shoot an air ball, go like that's it. Like move on.
you gotta
You
get
just
on
gotta go.
defense.
Just
You gotta
gotta
get on
go.
defense.
Exactly. And I was a
Man.
hustler. I wasn't the biggest, but I was strong, and I had to work really hard for everything. And um, I remember as a JV team, they would have us play against varsity teams, and like, bro, that was like so motivating for us because we could beat a varsity team. You know what I mean? Like we're just like, bro, like we're about
Yeah.
to, and those are some really good times. But you learn a lot of good lessons from regular sports, and I think just in my coaching, and I'm sure you could see this too, the kids that played sports and the ones that didn't, it's just so different. It's just so completely different. Like it's funny, a lot of my greats, like my amazing champions, like they don't even
Yeah.
like, they don't even question anything. Yes,
It's
coach, got it, coach.
yeah.
Hey, I fucked up on
It's
this one.
yeah.
I'm trying to get better on the next. You know what I mean? It's like,
It's so like cliche to say it, but like it's definitely true. Like just having a background where you've been in like pressure situations or you've had to deal with things going wrong. Because inevitably, if you play sports growing up, at some point your team gets blown out and you get absolutely
yes.
destroyed. Like, and you gotta deal with that. And that can shape you. Just having to deal with all that. So yeah,
Quick story: in high school, my senior year, we lost in the preseason. Preseason doesn't really count. It's where like so we had divisions, like different divisions in
that
different
it's
areas.
different in California than
Yeah,
it is in
for you guys, yeah.
Texas. Yeah, yeah,
So like let's say our division was like we play all the schools that were like local to us, right? So we would have like 8 schools that were like really close by and within like 45 minutes to an hour of each other, and that was our regular season. But we would go outside of that if there was a team that was like a charter school so had more money, or maybe they were a division above us, and we would play them. And usually those teams would accept because they could build their team's confidence of beating up on a city team, right? Like, oh, these guys don't have money, whatever. And that did happen sometimes. So we played this team Marshall, and we lost 0-32. And then we played against Monroe, and they beat the shit out of us. I don't even know. They had this guy who was already committed to like D1, whatever. He was like 6'4", insane receiver. My coach was like, we will never lose another game. We went undefeated in the regular season, so we beat the shit out of our league. We fucking smashed everybody. And then once we rematched Monroe in the playoffs. We beat them by 3 points. And
Jeez.
it was like losing 0-32 and dealing with the kids at school that week. Um, that was like that was tough. I remember sitting in
Yeah,
like English and like fucking dudes would turn around and be like, "Bro, you play football, right? Wow, you guys are trash, whatever." And you're
bro,
like,
it's always English class.
"Yes." And then once we started winning, it's like, "No, no, 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 no. Remember what you
Yeah,
said. Remember what you said." You
yeah,
know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was
yeah. Oh,
to
I
beat that
like I
team. Yeah,
got
go ahead.
no. I was gonna say I got like a similar story. Like so, my junior year, we had like the best record in school history, but we graduated everyone except for like 3 kids.
Mhm.
So my senior year, we're fucking terrible. Get our ass kicked. It's like week 5. We're 0-5. Okay, I walk into English Monday morning. The teacher, we had a road game last Friday, right? We lost, of course. The teacher goes, "Did the football team win on Friday?" I'm the only kid in the class that plays football. Some kid goes, "What do you think? They're terrible." Just says that out loud, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, "Okay, thanks, bro." Like, I don't see you out there, man. Like,
Yeah, it's just people like to I don't know why people like to pile on that. It's so it's so dumb.
that's how
But
it is.
fuck it. Next question. What we got?